Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Gentry, President and founder of RG Strategic Interventions, LLC. I want to welcome you to this module. I have some good information for you in regards to teaching responsibility and what does that mean and how it relates to cognitive behavioral interventions, or CBI. I want to give you an introduction to cognitive behavioral intervention. So the obvious question would be, what is it? When we think of how people make decisions and how they respond to life in general, we need to know that people do not respond to events. They respond to how they interpret events. And that interpretation is based on how they see life, going all the way back to childhood experiences, going through their preteen years and adolescent years, and if they're adults, it goes into their adult years. And these decisions are based on their interactions with caregivers, their interactions with peer groups, and their interaction with their environment. So two people can see the same event and have entirely different interpretations of those events. And based on how we see that event, we need to understand this fact, that our thinking and our attitude and our belief system concerning that event will control how we behave and respond to that event. So two different people can see the exact same event, but interpret it different, and as a result, have entirely different responses. So CBT teaches, and this is a core foundational principle, is that people, the way they think, controls how they act. With that being said, we enter into rational and irrational thoughts and the concept of self-talk. So one of the major things we want to do is teach people to think in a positive way, because positive thinking results in positive results. Negative thinking results in negative results. So with all of the tools and interventions involving CBI centers around helping people to think differently so they can behave differently. We want people to be able to see life in a positive way so they can respond to life in a positive way. In past modules, we talked about our youth in relation to their social learning environment. And for the most part, that environment has been faulty. The caregivers have been faulty. The peer groups have been negative. The experiences that these kids have encountered, many of them have been negative. So that will bring forth a certain outlook on life. And for most of these kids' years, they've been having to respond to threat. Their defenses have been up. And so even when they respond to seemingly minor issues, it may result in a severe behavioral response. So what we're trying to do with CBT is help a person to become healthy through thinking healthy and seeing the world different. So as opposed to taking drastic measures based on thinking, most of life events are not that drastic where we have to go to extremes in regards to our behavior. So when we talk CBT, we address issues such as automatic thinking, self-talk, and that's based on rational and irrational self-talk. We talk core beliefs, and we help kids to manage risk, and how to avoid high-risk situations. Now, further along in the module, in a future presentation, we will get into specifics in regards to CBT. So when we talk teaching responsibility, I want to narrow that down in this particular module to the detention and high secure setting. Traditionally, these facilities, especially short-term secure facilities, have oftentimes been overlooked by the court system. Frontline staff have been overworked, conditions have been overcrowded. They view themselves as being underpaid and underappreciated, and that can be a recipe for disaster. And so we have the unfortunate reputation that when kids enter juvenile detention centers, that we make them worse. There's lots of literature out there that talks about kids entering the justice system, and especially juvenile detention, as compared to those who have not entered the system or juvenile detention, that their life outcomes are going to be far worse in regards to standardized test scores, graduating from high school, being able to hold a job and earn a living wage, and just overall being able to form healthy and productive relationships and connect with life overall. So when we're talking responsibility and teaching CBT to these young people, we feel that this approach is the best approach in regards to changing behaviors and helping kids to become pro-social. In regards to high security detention centers, there has been a move over the last, I'd say, 20 years to introduce cognitive behavioral concepts and principles into an area that has been overlooked, and oftentimes people have been ill-trained and having a difficult time performing their job duties, which results in lawsuits, people being terminated from their jobs, kids being harmed, and that cycle tends to repeat itself. But we have an intervention. Some people call it rational behavior training, others call it cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people call it cognitive behavioral intervention. But one of the things that many progressive practitioners and researchers have done is they made a very progressive attempt in implementing these programs into detention facilities. Dr. David Rausch, who led the intensive learning program in Calhoun County many years ago, was probably the first detention center to introduce these principles and concepts into such a setting. And from there, Randall County, Texas, they've been highlighted for the great work they have done in high security detention, as well as DuPage County in Illinois, and Lucas County in Toledo, followed by Berrien County, and of course the facility that I work in, which is Ingham County, and then a number of facilities throughout the state of Michigan have adopted this approach as well. Some of these facilities are Kent County, Washtenaw County, of course Berrien County, which we talked about, just to name a few. And so we have made a strong push in the state of Michigan with the Michigan Juvenile Detention Association to implement and introduce CBT or CBI concepts into the environment as a behavior management mechanism where kids are able to learn how to appropriately behave and to appropriately deal with issues. Now, with that being said, I want to talk about the direct care staff. Oftentimes I share my heart and sentiments about the direct care staff. They are my heroes. They do the frontline work, they do the heavy lifting. And it's so unfortunate that this group of people are oftentimes overlooked for the great work that they do and for the things they deal with. With the recent COVID-19 virus, we've gained a great appreciation for our frontline workers, our essential staff. And that's a beautiful thing. We need to take the same approach with those in juvenile justice and child welfare who are working the front lines as well. They're there every day with the kids. They're dealing with the issues of their everyday life. So we promote people above programs, although programs are very important. Programs can only work if you have staff that are committed to making those programs effective for the kids. When we talk about research-based programs and security, hardware, building, design, physical plan, all of these kind of things, budgets, those are just a means to an end. But it's the commitment, it is the drive, it is the passion of the frontline staff that makes any program work. So people above programs is a winning formula when we're talking about any work that we do with young people. I want to talk about a few benefits of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, because why implement something if there are no known benefits? And so briefly, I want to talk about some of the benefits to a cognitive behavioral program. And these are some things that won me many years ago in regards to implementing such a program into the facility that I oversee. It was heavy lifting, it was hard work, but the work was definitely worth it because our young people benefit. And my staff has come to work smarter and not harder, and their results were much more effective. The beautiful thing about these programs is that they can be delivered by non-clinicians. They don't have to have master degrees or PhDs. They don't have to have special certifications. They just need a heart to want to help kids and a willingness to be trained to implement these programs. So often we focus so much of our time, money, attention, and efforts on therapists. And oftentimes in our facilities, these therapists may only see a kid once a week, twice a week, at best. But it's the frontline staff that work with these kids every single day. They know these kids better than anyone else. They know the kids better than supervisors. They know the kids better than administrators, psychologists, therapists. These people know these kids the best. So why not train them with an evidence-based model, whereas they can work with kids and observe behaviors and recognize change and to be able to reinforce those changes as these kids go along in these programs. So such a program, the CBI, can be delivered by non-clinicians. The other thing is that if we teach responsibility, such a program will enhance safety and security. When we were implementing our program, and we started back in 2005, implementing a strong cognitive behavioral based program, it was something that many of my staff were simply unfamiliar with. And it challenged them to do business in a different way. Prior to 2005, we worked from a punitive adult corrections model. There were few positive reinforcers. There wasn't a strong emphasis on relationship building, recognizing growth and achievement in these kind of things. For the most part, it was a prison for teenagers. But we began to make changes, and we began to see over a period of time the benefits of these changes as we implemented components of this CBT program. One of the things we recognized and we made note of is that it enhanced safety and security because kids were more responsible. They were able to control their emotions better. They were able to make rational decisions. They were able to make choices that were pro-social as opposed to antisocial. So kids recognizing that certain thinking brings forth certain behaviors, and certain behaviors bring forth certain consequences, they were more apt to make more appropriate choices by changing the way they thought. So there were less fights, less restraints, less room confinements over a period of time. So the implementation of these programs do actually enhance safety and security. Another benefit of CBT is that it provides a positive, strength-based focus for staff. So no longer do we have to have a security officer mentality or a prison guard mentality that we're watching for people and making sure that they're not breaking rules. But we become mentors and advocates and cheerleaders, if you will, to be able to recognize growth and achievement and applaud the young people for accomplishing certain landmarks in their lives. Oftentimes, these kids have never received recognition. They've only found trouble, be it in a home, in the school, extracurricular activities, or in the community. A lot of what these kids encountered was trouble and negative interactions with staff. So CBT is a beautiful thing because it promotes relationship building. We get to recognize accomplishments and achievements that our kids are making, and we're able to celebrate with them. And these positive accomplishments tend to feed into additional positive accomplishments, and we see pro-social growth as a result of that. So being a change agent is a great thing for staff, and CBT programs allow staff to become that agent of change in the lives of young people that really need change. Now, as I close, I just want to make a few more comments. And that is, let's talk about what research has to say about what works. The University of Cincinnati has done some expansive work in regards to what works in juvenile justice. That presentation is simply titled, What Works? And we know what do not work. We know that boot camps do not work. We know that scare straight programs do not work. And this is according to research. It makes for great theater, but the research tells us it simply do not work. The newest literature urges professionals to abandon these highly confrontational approaches. And the best way to work with kids, an alternative, is a fair, firm, and consistent approach where staff is able to collaborate with youth and come to successful outcomes. And at the same time, while they're doing this, they can hold them accountable for their behaviors. So those are just a few benefits when it comes to CBT and working with kids in regards to teaching them how to be more responsible individuals in every aspect of their lives. So with that said, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you had the opportunity to log on through YouTube, I want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button. We will have future modules coming forth that will be a benefit of you, to you in regards to your professional growth, or for all that matter, even your personal growth when it comes to working with individuals. If you had the opportunity to log on through my website, which is www.rgstrategicinterventions.com, I want to thank you for that as well. And feel free to scroll throughout that website, and there's some great information that will benefit you as well. So thank you once again, and I look forward to working and teaching you in future modules.